Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining Caseworks. We're talking today about CPAP, and so we certainly appreciate everyone joining and learning about the updates and what's new about the tort. We're joined today by Shanon Carson, John Albanese Dena Young from Berger Montague. I'm Susan Barfield, founder and CEO of Caseworks, and we've got Dan Comnali, who is VP of Sales and Marketing here at Caseworks. And we just certainly appreciate you taking time out of your day to listen and to talk about CPAP.
All right. Thank you so much, Susan. Appreciate it. Before we jump into obviously introducing our gracious host here, I just wanted to give a quick shout out and thanks to our past TALC panelists, Danielle Mason from Milberg Coleman and Rick Meadows from the Linear Law Firm. If any of our viewers haven't seen that, go watch it. It's a very informative, very information-driven live stream that I strongly encourage you to go check out. So first, I'd like to introduce Shanon Carson, who's one of the managing shareholders of Berger Montague. He's on numerous leadership positions. I would do a disservice listing them also during your intro. I'll let you. But he's, as I mentioned, a co-chair of the Employment, Unpaid Wages, Consumer Protection, Mass Torts, Defective Drugs, all things mass torts. So Shanon, I'll let you further introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this practice.
Sure. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Susan. Thanks for having us today, and thanks for putting this together. We really appreciate it. I'm Shanon Carson. I'm one of the managing shareholders of Berger Montague, PC. We're a firm with about 65 lawyers. Our main office is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We also have offices in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in San Diego, California, Washington, D.C. We have a very mixed practice. Our firm concentrates very heavily in complex litigation, class action litigation, and mass tort litigation. And our firm's been around doing this since 1970, so going on for just about 52 years now. We got into this litigation right at the beginning. On June 14th of 2021, Philips announced, in conjunction with the FDA, this massive recall of CPAP machines, BiPAP machines, and ventilators that were sold globally, right around the world, and U.S. was its biggest market. So I've seen numbers ranging from 4 to 10 million recalled machines in the United States. So this is an issue that's affecting literally millions of Americans. The recall was announced on June 14th of 2021. And soon thereafter, cases began to be filed regarding these defective products. The recalled devices contain a polyurethane-based sound abatement foam, known in shorthand as PPER foam, that does two things. One, it degrades over time, and so the foam that is in the machine degrades as the result of ordinary use by consumers into small particles that people are breathing in, and those particles contain toxic components. They also off-gas. So it's separate, an independent issue. They also off-gas volatile organic compounds that people are breathing in. And so, again, these are machines that people are using primarily to help them with their sleep apnea. And so many people are familiar with these machines. They sit on the nightside table next to your bed. They have a breathing apparatus with a hose and a tube and a mask that one puts over their mouth and nose while they're sleeping, to help them breathe while they're sleeping and help relieve their sleep apnea symptoms. And so they're literally breathing in the air through the machine all night, every night, day after day, week after week, month after month. And as the particles in the machine degrade and off-gas, people are potentially affected by the severe health consequences that can result.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And Before we jump into any more of the meat of the litigation, I just want to also introduce the two other guests on John Albanese, who's also a shareholder in the Minneapolis office. John, if you could just give a little bit of a quick bio and we could just jump into everything, and then we won't forget Dena as well afterwards. So thank you.
Sure. And just to echo what Shanon said, thanks for having us. Really happy to be here. I am a shareholder in the Minneapolis office. I've been working at Berger Montague since 2016. I helped open the Minneapolis office back then. My practice is in all aspects of consumer and product liability law and a lot of mass torts now as well.
Excellent. Thanks so much. And last but certainly not least, Dena, I know we've known each other for a little bit here, so it's definitely a pleasure to have you. Looking forward to catching up next time we can. But Dena, please, by all means, give a little bit of an intro and bio.
Thanks, Dan. It's good to see you. I joined Berger Montague in June of 2021, so it hasn't been a full year yet, but it feels like it. I came over to help with their mass tort department and consumer cases, so I'm happy to be there.
If I could just mention, I think Dena may have joined our firm the week before this recall.
Wow.
This recall was originally announced. And so talk about being thrown into something from day one. So we're so glad to have Dena at our firm and on our team. She has massive mass tort experience. And that was the reason that we hired Dena.
Thanks, Shanon.
That was great timing that you came on board.
Yes, it was.
Shanon, you gave a great overview and high level of CPAP and the issues and about the products. Tell us about the machines involved in the case.
Sure. So the recall actually affects a number of different models of CPAP, BiPAP, and ventilator, including the main flagship model of CPAP machine manufactured by Philips for the US market, which is called the DreamStation 1. And all of the DreamStation 1 machines, to my knowledge, in the US are subject to the recall. The flagship ventilator product for Philips is the Trilogy series. And the Trilogy series is also subject to the recall. And there are websites that have been set up where consumers can register their device and find out if they have a recalled machine by putting their serial number, which is located physically on the machine, into the website and figuring out whether or not they have a recalled machine that way. And of course, they can also, contact us at Berger Montague and we can help them as well. We've been contacted by thousands of American consumers and have really done a lot to assemble a large team. Everyone is seeing John and Dena and myself behind us as just an incredible staff of paralegals and project analysts and case intake analysts who are working with literally thousands of consumers who have contacted us, and we're doing everything we can to try to answer their questions.
Excellent. That's fantastic to hear. And John, if you can just touch into, Shanon touched upon this a little bit. What is the actual problem with this product that's causing all of the defect? If you could just dive in a little bit deeper there, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, happy to. That the problem with the product is the way it's designed. The air passage goes through the foam, and so when the foam off gases, as Shanon said, or when it degrades in particles, they go straight into the air passage, and people are breathing it in and out, all night for 8 hours or however long you're sleeping. And that foam was, it's not fit for human consumption. It's you're not supposed to be breathing in particles from this foam because they're carcinogenic. and likewise the off-gassing that the foam is doing is carcinogenic too. So it's simply the design of the machines leads to the breakdown of this foam, which gets in the air passageways that people are breathing in every night. And the whole point of the CPAP and BiPAP machine is to help you breathe at night. So it's just not fit for the purpose of which it was sold for.
That makes total sense. And I'm just going to open this one up to the floor. What is the, and by all means anyone, but what is the estimated impact of these defective products? How many people in the U.S., suffer from sleep apnea? What would be the potential scope, just so we can give, those who aren't familiar, the full scope of what this litigation could become?
So, as I said, the scope of the recall by the number of consumers who purchased recalled products is in the millions. And there are many thousands of injuries that have been reported across the country to law firms across the country as people are finding out about the recall. A subsidiary issue in this case has been the whether the recall itself by Philips has been sufficient. Just last week, the FDA issued something very out of the ordinary called a 518 notification letter that took issue with Philips' notification of consumers in the United States regarding the recall, finding that perhaps as little as half of the affected consumers even know about the recall at this point. And while Philips probably has a different version of that story, that's the story that the FDA is telling in this 518 notification letter, and thus has ordered further steps by Philips to re-notify or notify in the first instance U.S. consumers, doctors, suppliers, durable medical equipment manufacturers who distribute the product, etc., so that they get the word out regarding the potential harms. Philips itself announced that this foam, and I'm reading now, may break down and be inhaled or ingested, and may emit volatile organic compounds that can be inhaled, ingested, adversely affect organs, and are carcinogenic. And the specific injuries that have been potentially tied to these machines, answer your question, Dan, about the harm, include different forms of cancer, including lung cancer, kidney cancer, liver cancer, other cancers associated with the respiratory system, such as esophageal cancer and throat cancer and nose cancer, things like that, sarcoidosis, COPD, acute respiratory failure, other serious respiratory injuries and infections, carbon dioxide poisoning, esophageal irritation and inflammation, chest tightness, and chronic sinusitis, and the list goes on. And we've been contacted by so many people that we've really seen a large swath and cross section of all of these types of injuries that I'm alleging, in the form of real people contacting our office and saying, I was really in good health before I began to use this machine. I used this machine for a number of years, and I don't have a history of cancer in my family, and now I've just been diagnosed with esophageal cancer. I never smoked. I don't know what's going on, but I want you to look into this for me, Berger Montague. And so those are the types of cases that we and others are seeing here, and those are the types of cases that are being filed in the multi-district litigation.
Shanon, I was just going to ask you, or Dena, John, whoever wants to respond to this question is, oftentimes during the product recall, the manufacturers usually replace at no cost the equipment to the users. And so considering this is a product that people use every night, has Philips stepped in and offered to replace these devices?
So I'll take that one. Philips is replacing some of the devices and then repairing some of them, or they'll provide a replacement pack with instructions on how to go about removing the foam and replace it with another product. But they're not doing it in a timely manner. There are people. Some of our clients have been without use of a CPAP since June, and haven't received a replacement and can't afford to purchase a replacement. So, some of these machines can cost over $1,000. So if Philips isn't providing them the replacement and they can't afford a replacement on their own, they're just without machine, which in itself causes its own risks.
Sure.
User, they need it for health reasons. So if they're not using it and they don't have a replacement, they're in bad shape.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
It's really one of the largest sources of frustration in this whole thing that we've seen is the way in which the recall has been conducted, the lack of information and transparency regarding the repair and replacement process and the remedies that consumers are being given, the lack of information around the process, the lack of information around the recall, the lack of communication about the recall, the lack of communication with consumers. And so, we're just trying to fill that void a little bit. Understandably, we only can do it to a certain extent, in our role as lawyers and as a large plaintiff's law firm. But that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help people. We're trying to get the information out there that's available.
Right, and just recently, Philips came up with a process to alert users of where they are in line in getting their replacement machine. But it's been 8 or 9 months since the recall started, and just now they can find out where they are in line. And so up until this point, people had no idea where they fell and when they were going to get a machine, if at all. It's really unfortunate. People are very upset.
Yeah, you mentioned obviously 8 or 9 months that this go back, but as far as existing plaintiffs go, how far back does this do their timeline reach? For law firms looking to establish case criteria, how far back are we talking about for this litigation?
Sure, I'm happy to handle that. So every state, as you know, has something called statutes of limitation. So you kind of start the analysis with that, and it's a different analysis depending on which state the plaintiff lives in. And then every state has law around its application of statutes of limitation, including something called the discovery rule, which says that the statute of limitation doesn't start to run until somebody discovers their injury. And so the statute of limitations for people who have suffered physical injuries is something that they should discuss with a lawyer for sure. With respect to economic injuries and injuries that arise out of the recall itself, the recall was initially announced on June 14th. And so you would go back in each state's statute of limitation. Most states, the majority of states, have at least a 3-year statute of limitation to go back before then. Some states have longer. And so that's the type of analysis that we undertake. But ultimately, for claims for economic harms and claims for medical monitoring, we hope that those claims will be addressed through the class action device in the multi-district litigation. Following the recall, there were probably over 150 class actions filed. All of those cases have now been consolidated in one federal court before Judge Joy Flowers Conti in the United States District Court for the Western District of Pennsylvania, which is the federal court in Pittsburgh. And the first order of business, now that the case has been organized and now that the case has been, all of the cases in federal court have been consolidated in one court, will be for the plaintiffs to file a consolidated class action complaint or complaints. And that process is already underway. We expect that the economic harm class action complaint will be filed approximately within the next several months, within the next 3 months. And then that will be the operative class action complaint for the economic harms on which the motions to dismiss practice and the case will thereafter proceed.
Excellent. And John, real quick, Shannon mentioned medical monitoring, and are you at all familiar with the types of potential future injuries that sort of we're monitoring? They're monitoring throughout this litigation.
Sure, it's the same injuries Shannon mentioned. There are costs of the point of having a medical monitoring remedy is that going to the doctor and getting tested and getting specific tests necessary to try to test for these diseases that are potentially caused by the foam and the off-gassing is expensive. So the medical monitoring remedy is normally you set up a panel of expert doctors to discuss an appropriate medical monitoring program and how people make sure that people have access to testing and that it's paid for, so that if they are developing a disease related to the CPAP machine, that it's caught early and hopefully can be treated appropriately. So it's the same list of cancers and other types of injuries Shannon was mentioning.
I'd also like to sort of draw a bright line here, Dan, because on the one side, you have the class action cases, and on the other side of that line, you have the cases that are individual cases for physical personal injuries, up to and including death. And there are wrongful death cases that are part of this litigation. And so that court, the federal court I mentioned in Pittsburgh that's overseeing all the federal litigation, is overseeing both the class action side of the case as well as the personal injury side of the case. And we do expect that there will be ultimately thousands of individual personal injury cases that are filed that are part of the MDL litigation as well. And those are just getting underway as well.
Excellent. And Shannon, if you don't mind, if you're at this point allowed to say your involvement in leadership, sort of what your role is in leadership, if you can kind of speak to that a little bit, to the extent you can, would be appreciated.
Sure, happy to. So the case, as I mentioned, the case has been organized. Leadership has been appointed by Judge Conti several weeks ago, and there was a leadership structure that was put in place by the court. I and my firm, Berger Montague, was appointed to a role on the plaintiff's steering committee. And so we're involved on the plaintiff's steering committee. And I was also subsequently asked to be a co-chair of the law and briefing committee, which is a subcommittee of the plaintiff's steering committee that will focus on all of the law and briefing issues in the case, motion practice in the case, legal research issues in the case, class certification legal issues in the case, and other legal issues as they arise in the litigation. And so we're working with a number of firms on the plaintiff's steering committee and the co-chairs of the litigation that have been appointed by the court. And it's a great team. It's got just an absolute wealth of resources and experience. It's diverse. It's got everything that you would ask for in a dream team, and it's working very cooperatively now to get the case underway.
Dena, how far ahead of the official filing was CPAP on the firm's radar as a case to pursue?
I think we learned of the recall the same time as the rest of the country in June 14th. And then, we quickly started working on a complaint because the issue seemed really serious and the amount of people it affected seemed crazy. And so we had to do something. So we started working on it quickly and interviewing clients. And people are really scared and worried about their health, and rightfully so. And, we were glad to do what we could to help them.
Yeah. Has there been any recent updates?
We could talk about the tolling agreement, which is a pretty big, step forward for us. The parties met and conferred and talked about a tolling agreement so that firms and their clients could toll their cases, which is a way we could stop the statute of limitations from running while we work on the case. And it protects the claims so that you don't have to file it in court, but you're tolling you're basically putting a flag on their case and saying, hold this, so that their statute doesn't continue to run. And it's great that we've come to this agreement and that the judge has entered an order, putting the tolling agreement into place. It's available for any firm that needs to toll clients. It's on the court's website. You can also, reach out to any of us and we'll provide it with the exhibit that you have to attach, including all of your client's information. It's really simple. And then the defense attorney has an email address, and you just send the tolling agreement with your exhibit of clients to that email address, and then your clients are considered tolled. So it's really helpful, and we're happy to help anybody who needs to put their clients on there, so that you don't have to file your cases, but you're protecting their claims.
Absolutely. And so just a large amount of our viewers, subscribers, and people on our email are a lot of firms that, dabble in mass torts, if you will. What would be the best way if they just want to refer, to your firm and just, send you guys some cases? What is the best way for them to get in touch with you guys?
So the best way for them to get in touch with us is just to give us a call or to email us so we can set up a meeting with them. We've heard from so many firms that are exactly like what you just described, that may have been approached or been retained by 2 or 5 or 10 people or something like that, and they're looking for a law firm partner that can help them, co-counsel those cases, and we're certainly available to have those discussions. They can call us directly. They can call me. They can email us. I think all of our information is on the Berger Montague website, bergermontague.com, and they are certainly encouraged to get in touch with us, and we'd be delighted to talk to them.
We also have an email address that goes to the 3 of us. So if any firm wants to just reach out to all 3 of us at once, they can. The email address is phillipsrecalllawyers@bm, like bergermontague.net.
Okay. And we'll also provide that in the notes and the comments of this as well, and put it in the email as well. So that's.
And we're also, if they don't want to refer cases, like I said before, we're also happy to direct them and how to get on that tolling agreement. And if they don't want to refer the cases, they can do it themselves. And we're glad to help direct anybody.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We just want to be a resource for folks.
That's great. That's great. And Dena, I know you're involved in the Allergan breast implants. What is the similarities, or what do you see that sort of in terms of what do you like about large scale litigation? That where do you see the blend of the 2 litigations?
The blend of these litigations is that these people, women, and for the Allergan implants, and then all sorts of people for this case, but that long-term exposure can cause serious injury, if not death. And it's enraging to me, and it's upsetting, and it's upsetting to the clients that companies put out a product that's not fit for use, and not fit for life, and they expect to get away with it. So to me, it's doing good work to represent people who are at risk for disease from a manufacturer that just wants to get rich. And so that's the similarity, is that these people, all users of Allergan implants that are textured, and all users of Philips CPAP that had this foam, are at risk for serious bodily injury, and they deserve compensation.
Yeah. John, what would a successful resolution for the CPAP case look like for the firm?
That's a great question. I think whenever we take a case, we're a very client-focused firm, and we want to always do the best we can by our clients. So successful resolution is for those people who are out money because they may have bought a replacement CPAP machine rather than wait on Philips to provide one, or they just aren't comfortable using a Philips machine anymore. So they should be entitled to that money back that they paid for the replacement machine. For the people that were seriously injured, and we can show that their injuries were caused by the use of the Philips machine and the foam, then they should be compensated for their injuries. And that's where our firm really focuses on what our clients want and what they are entitled to. So a successful result is when we can get compensation for our clients and represent them the best that we can against the multi-billion-dollar international corporation.
Yeah, there are people going back to Allergan as well. Like the users, the people who've been affected by these products feel really violated.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a real feeling to have to be injured by a company and learn through discovery that these companies knew for a long time that their products were dangerous and didn't do anything about it. It's really upsetting. So, a lot of this for the clients, even if they don't want money per se, is to get justice and to show that they're angry and upset. And how could you do this?
Yeah.
So it's like cathartic for them.
Yeah. And if
Could
I just add one thing too for those that are watching, because this is not a fact that's true in every case. The judge in this case is very focused, even at this early stage, on trying to encourage the parties to reach resolution. So part of the leadership committee that's been appointed includes a settlement committee. And as recently as the last hearing with the court reiterated her commitment to doing whatever the court can do to help push this case towards a resolution sooner rather than later, which is really what people need, to Dena's point.
Yeah. Well, Dena, Shanon, John, we greatly appreciate the three of you taking time to connect. Not only is your knowledge, but I certainly, especially Dena, I can hear your passion come through about these cases. And so, as Dan mentioned, a lot of our viewers and a lot of the firms that we assist are going to need to find, homes for these cases. And so we would love to be able to partner with you guys, and appreciate you giving your information so that they have a resource that they can reach out to, whether they're referring cases now or maybe they need to in the future. But we just are so thankful for you taking time to talk all things CPAP today. And we just thank you for that. Dan, any last?
No, again, just to reiterate, thank you so much, obviously, for attending. I know, Susan mentioned passion and our why. That is a big reason of we want to get involved in the CPAP litigation for exactly that. We want to help as many people as possible. So we are looking to, work with leadership in every facet, be a part of the MDL and be able to help in any way, shape, or form, because this is going to be a very large scale litigation, and that's exactly what we do. We scale up and we provide that resource. So we are very passionate about getting involved. So I thank you all for joining. I'm very much looking forward to meet you in person real soon, and thank you again for coming today. So.
Thank you for inviting us.